Welcome, and thank you for joining today's Neybor Consulting briefing on federal invoicing platforms. Today, we are going to walk through, step by step, the major systems that federal contractors use to send invoices to the US government and actually get paid. We will cover the wide area workflow inside PIEE, the Treasury's invoice processing platform, GSA's vendor and customer self-service portal, and the VA's Viper system. Whether you are a brand new vendor or a seasoned prime, by the end of this session, you will know exactly which platform applies to your contract, how to set up access, how to submit a clean invoice, and how to avoid the rejection errors that cost contractors weeks of payment delay. Let's get started. Here is the roadmap for our session. We will begin by setting context, why these platforms matter, and what they cost you if you ignore them. Then, we'll map out the federal invoicing landscape so you know which platform belongs to which agency or contract vehicle. From there, we will do 4 step-by-step deep dives. Wide area workflow, the invoice processing platform, GSA's vendor portal, and the VA's Vipers. After the platforms, we will look at the most common rejection errors, share best practices to get paid in 30 days under the Prompt Payment Act, and finish with concrete next steps, including how Neybor can help you operationalize all of this. On the right is a preview of the universal 5-step workflow we will keep coming back to. Register and request roles. Build the invoice in system, attach your support documents, submit and route, then track until you are paid. Let's start with the why. The Prompt Payment Act gives federal vendors a default 30-day clock to be paid, but that clock only starts when you submit what is called a proper invoice through the correct platform. Industry data and OIG reports consistently show that roughly 17% of vendor invoices are kicked back on first submission, almost always for fixable formatting errors. Each rejection adds 2 to 4 weeks of float to your receivables. And here is something almost nobody collects on. When the government does pay late, you are entitled to interest, currently around 7% APR. Most contractors never even invoice for it. The bar chart at the bottom makes the case visually. Invoices submitted through any of the official platforms get paid in roughly 12 to 18 days. Vendors still emailing PDF invoices wait an average of 41 days. The single highest ROI process improvement a small contractor can make is moving every invoice into the right platform. That is what the rest of this deck is about. Here is the landscape at a glance. The Procurement Integrated Enterprise Environment, PIEE, hosts the wide area workflow module known as WAWF, or IRAPT, and that is your home base for nearly every Department of Defense contract, and for more than 30 other agencies that opted in. On the civilian side, Treasury's Invoice Processing Platform, IPP, is the central system used by roughly 80 civilian bureaus and is steadily expanding. If you contract with USDA, HHS, DOI, SBA, and most non-DoD agencies, expect to use IPP. GSA schedule holders also use VCSS, Vendor Customer Self-Service, to handle GSA-issued invoices and IFF tracking. The Department of Veterans Affairs runs its own portal called Vipers and often pairs it with Tungsten Network for OCR processing. For foreign military sales work that routes through DFAS, you will use a hybrid WAWF flow. And finally, a few agencies, DHS, parts of DOJ, still operate proprietary invoice systems. Always check Section G of your contract to confirm which platform applies before you submit anything. Let's start with the platform you are most likely to encounter. PIEE, the Procurement Integrated Enterprise Environment, hosted by the Defense Logistics Agency at PIEE, EB-Will-Mill. Inside PIEE, the module you will use most is Wide Area Workflow, historically called WAWF and now branded IRAPT. This is where you actually build and submit your invoice. You will also touch My Invoice for post-submission status tracking, by contract number or by invoice number. The platform is free, run entirely by the government, and registration is open to any vendor with an active SAM. Gov registration. On the right are the 5 most common document types you will choose between. For services contracts, you almost always use the invoice 2-in-1, which combines your invoice and the receiving report into a single submission. For supply contracts, you use the combo invoice plus the DD250 receiving report. Cost reimbursable work uses the cost voucher, which has DCAA pre-approval requirements. And for financing arrangements, you have commercial item financing and performance-based payment options under FAR Part 32. Pick the wrong document type and your invoice will be rejected, even if every dollar is correct. Now let's walk WAWF end-to-end in 7 concrete steps. Step 1. Register in PIEE using your SAM cage code and a government purpose email. Self-registration is open at PIEE. EBI, MIL. Step 2. Request the vendor role. Inside your company, designate a group administrator, or GAM, who approves which employees can submit invoices. This is a security control you want owned, not delegated to an admin assistant. Step 3. Create a new document. You choose the document type we covered on the previous slide and enter your contract number. WAWF will pull the contract from a contract data store, so spelling the contract number correctly is essential. Step 4. Enter line items. Each CLIN, quantity and unit price must match the contract exactly. If you build for 10 units, but the contract is in lots of 1, the system will throw a mismatch error. Step 5. Attach support. For services, this means timesheets and ODC receipts. For supplies, it means a copy of the receiving report or shipping documents. Step 6. Submit and route. WAWF uses the DODAC routing on the contract. Your invoice automatically flows to the right inspector, acceptor, and payment office. Step 7. Track and resolve. Use My Invoice daily during the first 2 weeks. If anything is rejected, respond inside 24 hours. The meter is running on your cash. The timeline at the bottom shows a typical happy path, 12 days from submit to paid. Anything significantly slower than that is usually fixable. This slide shows what the WAWF Create document screen actually looks like for an invoice 2-in-1 on a fictional Army contract. At the top, we pick the document type. Invoice 2-in-1 for services. Notice that we entered both a contract number and a delivery order number because this is an IDIQ award. If it were a standalone award, we would leave the delivery order blank. Entering one when not needed is a common rejection trigger. The 3 DODACs, pay office, inspector, and acceptor, all come straight from Section G of your contract. WAWF will not autofill them, so keep a 1-page cheat sheet for every active contract. The invoice number is your own internal reference. Most accounting systems generate this automatically, but the rule is never reuse one. WAWF will reject a duplicate even if it's on a different contract. On the right, we've explained what each field really means. Spend 5 minutes briefing your AR clerk on these. It will eliminate 90% of your rejection traffic. Treasury's Invoice Processing Platform, or IPP, is the civilian-side counterpart to WAWF. It is operated by the Bureau of the Fiscal Service, and access to IPP DOL gives you for roughly 80% of civilian invoice volume. IPP is now the required submission channel. If your contract is with HHS, USDA, the Department of the Interior, SBA, the Department of Labor, or Commerce, plan on IPP. IPP has one feature WAWF does not. It ties your invoice and your ACH remittance together in a single view, so you can see exactly which payment closed which invoice. That alone is worth the onboarding effort. You have 2 submission modes. Most small contractors use web portal entry. Larger contractors with ERPs like NetSuite or Deltek connect via batch upload using CSV, XML, or CXML. One important nuance: IPP is invitation-based. You cannot self-register the way you can in PIEE. Your contracting officer or the agency finance point of contact must initiate your enrollment. Always ask for this within the first week after award. Getting onboarded later costs you weeks of float. The donut chart on the right shows the trend. Civilian agency invoice volume on IPP has crossed 80% and is still climbing. Here is the 6-step IPP playbook. Step 1. Wait for the invitation email. The contracting officer or finance POC triggers this from inside the agency's IPP environment. Politely follow up if you have not received it within 72 hours of contract award. Step 2. Activate within 90 days. The link expires, and getting a reissue requires a call from the agency. Step 3. Configure remittance. You'll enter your ACH routing and account info, your remit to address, your tax ID, and assign roles. Have your treasurer or controller do this, not a junior staffer. Step 4, submit your invoice, either through the web portal or by uploading a CSV, XML, or CXML batch file. Deltek, Uninet, NetSuite, and QuickBooks Online all have IPP connectors or partner integrations. Step 5, your invoice routes to the agency approver. You can see live status, received, in review, approved, scheduled, paid. Step 6, reconcile. Inside IPP, every ACH deposit is linked to the invoices it cleared. No more guessing what a Treasury ACH descriptor refers to. One real-world warning at the bottom of the slide, IPP uses Experience identity proofing. If the activating user has a thin credit file or a recent freeze, they will fail the knowledge-based questions and get locked out for 24 hours. Pick someone with a fresh, unfrozen credit report. Now to Platform 3, GSA's Vendor Customer Self-Service, abbreviated VCSS. This one is misunderstood by many schedule holders. VCSS is not where you bill your buying agency. It is where you handle invoices that flow between you and GSA itself. Industrial funding fee, the 0.25% fee GSA collects on scheduled sales, IFF statements, lease and rent invoices, and any other money you owe GSA all live in VCSS. You will also find your contractor profile here, where you maintain authorized negotiators and points of contact. On the right is the most common VCSS workflow you will run all year. Quarterly IFF reporting. Pull your schedule sales for the quarter, log into SAM sales reporting, which absorb the legacy 72A system, and enter or upload the sales by special item number. GSA's system then calculates your IFF, typically 0.75% of net sales, and posts an invoice to your VCSS account. Pay it within 30 days via ACH or Pay. Gov or interest starts accruing against you. One last point. Separately from VCSS, your end-user agencies on a schedule order still pay you via WAWF or IPP, depending on the buying agency. VCSS is purely the GSA to you channel. Our fourth platform is Vipers, short for VA Internet Payment Electronic Reporting System. Vipers is not actually a single tool, it is a pairing. Your invoices are transmitted electronically through the Tungsten network, and you check status and upload PDF supporting documents through the Vipers portal, both run by the VA's Financial Services Center in Austin, Texas. Per VA policy, all commercial invoices must be submitted electronically. If you send a paper invoice or a PDF by email, it is returned, and your prompt payment clock never starts. Vipers covers all VA contracts: Veterans Health Administration, Veterans Benefits, National Cemetery Administration, and most importantly, the community care network providers who serve veterans through commercial healthcare. Best part? It is free to vendors. The VA pays Tungsten's transaction fees up to roughly 5,000 invoices per year per vendor, which covers nearly every small contractor. The 4 steps on the right are the practical workflow. Register with Tungsten, pick a transmission mode, match the PO format exactly, and notice VA POs begin with 36C, then track in the Vipers dashboard. Approve or reject status typically posts within 3 to 5 business days. This is the cheat sheet slide. Print this one, tape it to the wall. Reading across, you can see at a glance, WAWF is the broadest platform, Department of Defense plus 30 other agencies, and it allows self-registration. Treasury's IPP is invite-only and dominates civilian agency volume. GSA VCSS is narrower, only used for the GSA to you side of scheduled sales, and Vipers via Tungsten is your VA channel. The average days to pay row is the one your CFO cares about. WAWF and IPP both deliver in roughly 2 weeks. GSA VCSS shows 30 because that's the VA's deadline for you to pay GSA. The direction flips for IFF. VA Vipers sits at 14 to 21 days, slightly slower than the others due to the Tungsten intermediary. All 4 platforms are free to vendors. ERP integration is best in IPP. Its CSV and CXML support is the cleanest if you are running QuickBooks Online, Uninet, Deltek CostPoint, or NetSuite. The rule of thumb at the bottom is the one your accounts receivable lead needs to internalize. Open Section G of every new contract on day 1. look at the payment office, and the platform follows from there. Time to look at where invoices die. The bar chart pulls together what DFAS and Treasury report as the top reasons invoices are kicked back on first submission. 31% of rejections come from wrong contract numbers, usually a transposed digit or a wrong dash. 22% miss the receiving report. This happens when vendors submit the invoice in one document and the DD-250 separately. Don't do that. Use invoice 2-in-1 for services or combo for supplies, which bundle them. About 14% are quantity or unit mismatches, billing in hours when the contract is in lots or in lots when it is each. 11% are duplicate invoice numbers, a single most preventable error. 12% are wrong DODAX, and 10% are simple math errors that don't foot to the contract ceiling. The fixed cards on the right are your prevention checklist. Walk your AR team through them quarterly. If you bring rejections from 17% down to 5%, you typically pull a week of float out of your cycle. This slide is where the money is. The Prompt Payment Act, codified in FAR Part 32, Subpart 32.9, and Title 5, CFR Part 1315, sets a default 30-day clock from receipt of a proper invoice. Best practice number 1, pre-flight every invoice with a 5-point checklist: contract number, CLIN, units, DODAX, and math. This is a 5-minute step that prevents rejection. Number 2, submit by the 5th of the month. Most pay offices run batches on the 10th and 25th, so submitting late means waiting another 2 weeks. Number 3, watch the constructive acceptance clock. If the inspector goes silent past day 7, the regulation deems the invoice accepted, but you should still ping the contracting officer to get the timestamp on the record. Number 4, and this is the one nobody does. When the government pays you late, the Prompt Payment Act says they owe you interest, currently around 7% APR. By regulation, it should be automatic, but in practice, you have to invoice for it. Add a line to your next invoice for the prior interest accrued. Number 5, reconcile weekly, not monthly. Pull My Invoice and IPP dashboards every Friday. Any invoice aged over 20 days warrants a phone call. For any contractor billing more than a handful of invoices a month, manual portal entry stops scaling. Here is how the modern GovCon stack looks. On the left are the accounting and ERP systems most federal contractors run: QuickBooks Online at the small end, Deltek CostPoint, and Uninet for project cost accounting shops, NetSuite for larger commercial first vendors, Sage Intacct, Xero, and so on. In the middle is what I call the bridge layer. This is the piece that translates your ERP's invoice records into the format the federal platform expects. The 4 options most relevant to you are IPP's native CXML and CSV uploader, EDI 810 transactions through DLA's Transportation Payment Processing System for high-volume WAWF use, Tungsten Connect for the VA, and several GovCon purpose-built bridges like Procas, ARMS Federal, or RIPL. On the right are your destination platforms, WAWF, IPP, VCSS, and Vipers. If you are still typing invoices by hand into a portal, the ROI on adding a bridge is usually under 3 months. That's the conversation to have with your controller this quarter. Let's tie everything together with one realistic worked example. Meet Acme Logistics, a fictional small freight contractor with an IDIQ award from DLA Troop Support, contract number SPE 7M-26-D-0098. They just received delivery order 003 for $185,000 of freight services. Section G of their contract gives them 3 routing values: Pay Office HQ0339, which is DFAS Columbus, and Inspector and Acceptor both at SPE 7M1, DLA Susquehanna. Now, watch the timeline at the bottom of the slide. Day 0, Acme submits an invoice 2-in-1 inside WAWF using those routing codes. Day 2, the DLA inspector at Susquehanna logs into WAWF and clicks Accept. Day 4, the acceptor finalizes the document and the WAWF status flips to in payment. Day 7, DFAS Columbus schedules disbursement. Day 12, the ACH posts to Acme's bank. Day 14, Acme reconciles in My Invoice and closes the receivable on their books. From submit to cash, 14 days. That is the experience you should expect when the platform, the data, and your process all align. Let me leave you with 6 takeaways. 1. Match the platform to the contract. The platform isn't your choice. Section G of every contract makes it for you. Confirm on day 1 of every award. 2. Get onboarded immediately. PIE is self-service, so you can move fast. IPP, GSA, VCSS, and Vipers all take a few days to a few weeks. Don't wait until you're ready to invoice. You'll lose float every time. 3. Pick the right document type. Wrong document type is one of the most common rejection reasons, and it's the easiest to get right. 4. Pre-flight every single invoice with a 5-point checklist. Contract number, CLIN, units, DODAX, and math. This is the discipline that drops your reject rate from 17% down to under 5. 5. Track weekly and invoice for prompt payment act interest when the government is late. Most contractors leave that money on the table. 6. Automate. Manual portal entry is fine at 5 invoices a month. Past 30, you need a bridge layer between your ERP and the platforms. If you internalize just these 6, you'll dramatically improve your cash conversion cycle on federal contracts. That brings us to the close. At Neybor Consulting, we help federal contractors operationalize this entire flow. We do 3 things. We onboard you to PIE, IPP, GSA VCSS, and Vipers, so you don't lose weeks figuring it out alone. We design the process and the ERP-to-platform integration so your invoices flow on autopilot. And when something goes wrong, a rejection cycle, a stuck invoice, a late payment, we step in to resolve it with the contracting officer and the pay office. If any of what we covered today resonates, please head over to Neybor Consulting. Come and book a free consultation. We will review your current invoicing flow, identify the bottlenecks, and put a 30-day improvement plan in your hands. Thank you for your time, and may every one of your invoices be paid on day 12.